Welcome back to HTP Podcast, where we go beyond just strokes and strategy. Our mission is to change the culture of tennis, having one conversation at a time through a more positive and holistic approach. And today I have Yev on the pod, and Yev and I met at South Carolina when I was playing on the women's team and you were playing on the men's team. And that's how we initially connected. And then, gosh, we haven't talked for years since then. But I do want to say I was a little bit jealous of your guys' men's team because you guys always had team outings with one another. Like your team was like so much more together. And I was so jealous, I'm not gonna lie, because our girls team was like, there's like couple girls over here, couple girls over here. And I'm like, why can't we all just hang out together, And your guys' team, you go travel together, come back and go party together. And I was like, that's so cool. I love that about your guys' team. But anyways, yeah, share where you're from, how you got started into tennis and all the good things.
Well, you just completely pivoted from the college days that you just took me through this timeline, and
Yeah.
then to where I started and where I'm coming from. It's like, hold on a second, I got to put this together. Well,
Yeah.
first of all, great seeing you. We haven't
Yeah.
spoken forever, and it's
Yeah.
amazing on what you do. It's just a great initiative altogether, and which is going to help a lot of people to answer many questions. And I'm a big believer and supporter, so thank you for doing it. I'm originally from a country named Kyrgyzstan, which not many people know what that is. I call it one of the stands. It's probably got more well known most recently in the last few years with different reasons, but beautiful country, mountains, lakes, gorgeous nature. And I consider myself a late boomer, and I played all different sports before really sticking or, tennis finding me rather than necessarily I find tennis. And one thing led to another. And one thing, what kind of separates where I feel like it gave me a lot of boost where in our schools where I started, I came into the first lesson and the coach just said, "You see those tennis courts?" Yeah. And of course, I'm drooling at that point. That's what I want to go. He said, "You see that tennis wall over there?" Yes. He says, "This is where you're going to be for the next 3 months." Forget about the courts. That was just the mentality. Why? And now I see it because it's actually an interesting approach, because that's where you get your repetition and you always look over to the courts and you see people playing and having great time. And so it makes you want to get better faster. And in the process, as you do, you develop a certain technique, and it's literally ran like at any other clinic, right? The people do it on the court. That was the exact same format done on the wall. You do your 50 volleys with the coach standing, you're hitting your ground strokes. We played the games and stuff. Very, very different from these days,
Yeah.
but very useful.
Yeah.
So,
I love that.
yeah, and that's basically a very short beginning of the tennis journey that was on and off. And I played in my country in a city named Bishkek. It's a relatively large city, and so I played there till about 14 years old, and then we moved here to US. At that time, surprisingly, I wasn't too into it. I was kind of due to the playing other sports, I was into soccer and played for my school at a time. And when we moved here, I just really kind of my mind was into the team sports, because as we know, tennis does get lonely at times and it's a very independent sport for which,
Yeah.
Obviously we love it also.
Yeah.
I was kind of gearing towards that direction, and because bigger and stronger powers took different turns, and somehow it pivoted me back into the practice court and playing. Remember my first tournaments in state of Wyoming, of all places. It's another story.
Yeah.
And that's where my journey started into Intermountain section, into all the Colorados and Nebraskas and all that, all the part of the world. And it was interesting. That's where kind of led me back, because I started doing quite good at the beginning. Maybe because it was the section, maybe because I was already more mature at that time. And one thing led to another. Relatively in a short period of time, I was already nationally ranked and was able to play all the super national, well, nationals first, then the super national tournaments, and kind of took it from there. And almost 15 years old, so
Wow.
16s, and then
Yeah.
you try to step and hopefully play division up in 18s.
Wow. So that was more of like a later start. I did not realize that about you, because most people who have later starts don't just automatically go to a top D1 school like South Carolina. So that's really impressive. You must have had a really good athletic foundation already to do that.
I would say that's a very good point that you bring up. And I always, as a coach and as a mentor, I always say, don't have a lot of parents and and as a parent myself now, I mean, it's itching. I'm not gonna lie. It's very tempting. You know how parents, let's do 5, 6 hours, 10 hours of one activity.
Yeah.
Please don't, because there's actually a very scary statistics out there. By age of 12, 75% of the kids are dropping out of whatever the activity or the sport that they do for two
Wow.
main reasons: the pressure of the parents and
Hmm.
simply burning out. Right? Those
Yeah.
are the astonishing facts where, well, what's the point? I mean, yeah, and we see the stories of Federers and Nadal and Serenas and Sabalenkas and all the part of it's very few. It's a one in a trillion, if not more.
Yeah.
But to me, a child, and going to your statement, to me, it's nothing. I don't consider myself even talented, to be honest. I feel like I had to work my butt off, but I did it in an athletic way
Mm.
where kids have to be developed as an athletes first and foremost, meaning you got to be able to throw, jump, crawl, sit, strive. First and foremost, it's called the athleticism, right? You being athletic. That doesn't have to do anything with being talented, being gifted, being a hard worker, even at that point, just simply being able to be athletic,
Yeah.
right? That's where it starts, athletic 101. And there's a certain age and there's a certain gap where you can develop those attributes relatively faster. And to me, as a proven fact, and I've seen besides myself many other people, that's until 10 years old, right? Until 10 years old, you can still bounce around, you can play a little soccer, a little basketball, a little baseball, where by 10 years old, your maturity level is developing and your interest level should be pivoting to a certain degree. That's where either you start choosing the sport or the sport start chooses you. Because, if you are relatively capable of doing XYZ sport, that's probably the direction that you want to go and develop and build it. That's where I think it's very important to remember that it's not to chase that just because you started at 4 or 5 years old. And I don't know how your story or your background says, and I see still, the the grown-ups we are and the parents that we are now, and I see, the friends they're already on the court with them with a bucket of balls and countless hours, and this
Yeah.
is all just all quiet. So
I'm in total agreement with you, Yev. I mean, my dad was South African, so we grew up playing all different sports, and I had brothers, so I had older brothers, so I wanted to do what they were doing. Looking back, it was like I was throwing a football before I was serving a tennis serve, and little things like that. And I definitely noticed in the last even 10 years or so, kids who choose a sport too early, just like you said, a lot of the time it's burnout and parents, like you said, and then even injury. They get injured so much faster and sooner than you would if you have more of a athlete who's built all around. I remember teaching, like 16-year-olds how to just throw. That's such a crucial aspect of the serving motion. So I agree 100% all around. Just keeping it fun for the kids, their athletic development, and all of that is so, so important if we want to continue to grow this sport with tennis. And I know we're both passionate about doing that in different ways. What I did want to ask you, how did you end up going to South Carolina, or how did you choose that?
well, it was not immediate choice. I don't know if you remember or not, but actually, and I know I think you started a year maybe after me, or
Yeah. Yeah, you were a little bit
but
older than me.
I actually transferred. So I
Okay.
transferred from Texas A&M. This is where I
Okay.
started my freshman year, and mainly due to another, by the way, phenomenal school, obviously environment. And now that I'm back to state of Texas, I mean it's extra special. So I call
Yeah.
myself one third of the Aggie, and really due to my family situation, I have a small family, and my mom at that time she moved to Florida, to Central Florida at the Palm Coast, and just the distance, and again, not having really a larger family, and it was for more or less, it was more of a family decision, a hard one. So I did transfer after a year, where in South Carolina, I was within just a driving proximity, and it was convenient to hop on the weekend. Turned out to be a very good move, but this mainly because not only that I was transferring from a powerhouse of Big 12 at that time
Yeah.
into the SEC conference, and me and you in the SEC conference, that's where it's at. If you're really planning on doing, something with your tennis
Yeah.
potentially, right?
Yeah.
You try to take it to the next level, and it's just that environment. And to me, it was very exciting and appealing to be in that way where many other people would say, wait, I mean, I have to be on my A game literally 24/7. Well, that's what it is. If you have a little bit of bad or medium day or slightly off, I mean, you'll be let know and right away across the net because everybody in the CC conferences, as you know, doesn't forgive or see those weaknesses right away. So that was exciting. And to what you mentioned right at the beginning, the camaraderie, I think that was really everything, connecting with the guys and really the women's team and the golfers. You remember, everything was so natural
Mm.
and so organic. And I think that just amplified that experience even more so. I did have my junior year, especially. I mean, I had unfortunate injury after winning 14 straight matches in a row and really having the season. And that's where I felt and had to have surgery right mid-season, literally mid-season, and then switching to one-handed backhand mid-season too, because I had to finish it somehow,
Yeah.
right? At least already not maybe being 100%. But all of that, I think was worth it because I think we both were in a great school. Now I hear and I know it's just absolutely phenomenal that had happened since our days, and it's just amazing to see. I mean, I consider South Carolina as a second home, and always coming back there is just a special place.
Absolutely. That's so cool. Yeah, I did not realize you transferred and because of your family. You don't typically hear that when people like transfer. So usually it's for a negative reason why they transfer
Yeah.
most of the time. So kind of then going into after South Carolina, what direction did you move into from there? Because you're still in tennis now.
Yeah, it's that one is definitely something that will require a little bit of longer way of explaining, but I'll try to be again super short.
Yeah.
I went to Florida right off the bat, and I did not have in plans to be a coach, to be in tennis, actually,
Okay.
period. Just
Okay.
because at a certain extent, and when you have maybe your setbacks, and from my end, it was really the injury
Yeah.
more than anything, injuries. And I did my internship with Bank of America at the time, and I was sure that I was going into finance. And see, that's where the fate or the route or detour always takes you to where you belong.
Yeah.
And it was 2008, and we all remember the subprime mortgage crisis and how things have turned very quickly at that time. And I just moved to South Florida, and I was actually flying to interviews in New York. So anyhow, long story short, it wasn't the time for any upbringing career in the finance at that
Yeah.
particular time. It was just
Okay.
scary. So
Yeah.
I took that time off, and I, started teaching at the Chris Everett Academy while I began my degree in international business. And I said, maybe that's the time to kind of wait it out, which I proudly completed. And, one thing led to another. And then, the road took me to New Jersey, where I spent the last 16 years. And I remember coming into a club, and I said, well, you know what? I'm not going to teach here. I could help you with marketing. I could help you with business development. I got my degree. I have a little bit of experience. And they kind of looked at me as I said, well, we have coaches doing this, and this. And, the manager, it's basically the administrator. So I started looking at different directions and like, okay, how to go about it because I was still young, 24 at that time and 23, 24. So it kind of, that was the first kind of pivot where I just took into this coaching area. And then I started working with the high performance players and traveling with them. As you very well know, it takes you back to your days. The amount, I mean, one thing I'm so grateful is the amount of experience that you can't fake it. You can't make it up. You can only so much read it in the books, and journals, but if you live a certain experience, you can really resemble and really help. And I think for me, it was start just pouring out, and felt like it was a very productive time for the time where specifically coaching the higher level players. And long story short, not only that was working specifically with the high performance players, but also there was diversity and learning. And then I kind of stepped into the role from just coaching into the GM, at
Yeah.
the 26 years old, and with this opportunity, that was another 12-year shift that eventually took me here right now where I'm in Texas. But, it's one road leads to another. You can say you're not going to do it. You don't want to do it. You can escape it. But if all the roads lead back, I mean, I'm a big believer, at least, to reading the science, right? To read,
Yes.
what's in front of you. And
Yeah.
So overall, it's just you gotta accept it and you gotta embrace it, and you actually hopefully gotta love it and respect what you do, and hopefully see the value. But not only personally, but if the value relates to people around you and
Yeah.
organizations around you, I think that's very important, at least for me personally. And that's what we are. And then 12 years later, by in that experience, I'm over what a little bit over a year now in DFW area and at the country club, which is a whole different segment or environment where I was before. Not that it drastically different, but from the operational standpoint and
Yeah.
member experience and then all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I wasn't sure if like you stayed in tennis or not. I couldn't remember that part, but I agree. It's really interesting how the journey will pull you back in if you're meant to be in it because I was out of it for 5 years because of an injury and just now the last couple years got back into it. Exactly like you said, when you're meant to be in it, it's going to lead you there. You realize how much it is part of what you're meant to bring to the world and how to help people in different ways. So that's really cool. Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you for sharing your time today. I really
thank
appreciate
you.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it was great talking to you. And again, I appreciate we all do what you do, and I think it's a great concept and
Thank
here to
you.
support it.
Thank you. If you guys like these tennis tales, please like, share, and subscribe.